welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. Daniel 6:5 reads, "Then said these men, We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God." Daniel was about 90 years old when he was cast to the lions. He had been for many years the real governor of the whole empire, and of course in such a position had incurred much hatred and jealousy. He was a foreigner and a worshiper of another god. He was capable and honest. That combination alone was enough to guarantee the resentment of the self-seeking underlords who surrounded him. So hostile plots were hatched to destroy him and seize his lofty office. But how? These intriguers said, "We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God." So let us learn what we may from this old Bible story. Notice a very unfavorable soil in which a character of exceptional beauty and devout consecration may be rooted and grow. The royal court where Daniel was obliged to live and fulfill his destiny was half shambles and half pigsty. Luxury, sensuality, lust, self-seeking, idolatry, ruthless cruelty, and the like were his to face every day. In the middle of this repugnant scene there grew up such a fair flower of character, pure and stainless, that not even his bitter rivals could find a spot. Daniel is proof there are no circumstances in which a person must have his garments spotted by the world. However deep the filth through which he has to wade, if God sent him there, and if he keeps hold of God's hand, his purity will only be made greater by the impurity around him. Purity and holiness and communion with God do not depend on environment, but on the purpose of one's heart. Notice also the keen critics that every Christian has to face. In Daniel's case, these enemies search for tiny faults through the microscope of envy and malice. Whether your life is so lived in the public eye or some quiet corner, there will be people standing close by who, if not actually watching for your fall, are at least happy to make the worst of any slip and to rejoice over any inconsistency. There's no need to complain about that. Christian people must learn to be indifferent to opinions, while at the same time realizing they're bound, as the apostle says, to provide things honest in the sight of all men. Notice Daniel's record of good conduct. These men could find no fault, for as much as Daniel was faithful. Neither was there any error, of judgment that is, or fault, dereliction of duty is that one, found in him. They were very poor judges of his religion, and they didn't try to judge it, but they were very good judges of his conduct as prime minister, and they did judge. The world is not a proper judge of your Christianity, but is a very good one of your conduct. You may not know much about the inward Christian life, the experiences in which the Christian heart glows and loves to dwell, but it knows what playing politics, slandering, bad tempers, bad attitudes, dishonesty, and selfishness are. And it is by our conduct in the things that they and we do together that worldly people judge what we are in the solitary depths where we claim to dwell in communion with God. It is useless for Christians to talk about spiritual experiences and religious joy unless with these there is such that the world must say, "We find no occasion against this man." Then notice Daniel's obedient disobedience. The whole plot relies on the belief that this man will do what his God tells him, no matter who tells him not to do it. And so the mad law is passed with its whole purpose of killing one faithful man. And it worked. For what did it matter to Daniel what was forbidden or commanded? He needed to pray, and nothing would hinder him from doing it. And so, obediently disobedient, he brushed aside the preposterous, outrageous law to keep the law of his God. And it was God who delivered him, as he always has, as he always shall. It is intended by his grace to be the same for you and me today, by his mighty keeping power. And these things are recorded in his word that we may benefit from the example and walk in those same ancient footsteps. Have you talked to God today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.